This, by the way, is what happens when you live your life in an echo chamber and never challenge your beliefs. And on top of that, you have 877,000 dipshit subscribers that jerk you off for every dumb thing you say. It is literally, like, this kind of bullshit hurts political dialogue. So as most of you know by now, Derek Chauvin, after he was convicted of the murder of George Floyd, he was just sentenced to 22 and a half years in prison. 22 and a half years. Now, he does have the possibility of parole after 15 years, if I'm not mistaken. So there's a good possibility that he might simply just get out after 15 years. Either way, I think that this is good. I'm happy with the sentence he received. I think that this is justice. You know, you're going to have your people that say it's not enough. Statistically, it's extremely rare for police officers to actually face legal consequences, especially murder charges. So this is a bit of an anomaly in and of itself. However, it's my understanding that the sentence Derek Chauvin was given was standard for the crime. Now, that's my understanding. I could be wrong there. So the fact that Derek Chauvin is going to spend a minimum of 15 years in prison for the murder of George Floyd when he was a police officer on duty, that is absolutely moving us in a positive direction. Apparently, not everybody thought so. Apparently, this guy, Anthony Brian Logan, the common sense conservative, that's how you know it's going to be good. He has some thoughts about the Derek Chauvin stuff. Derek Chauvin sentenced to 22 years for the death of George Floyd. That's the title of his video. Let it be known, we haven't disliked or liked. Okay? We're gonna decide. I have already seen this though, so spoilers, it's bullshit. Let's watch.
Is it about justice or vengeance?
Is it about, so even the opening, is it about justice or vengeance? What does that mean? Usually if someone commits a crime, they appear in front of a jury, the jury finds them guilty, and then they're given a sentence that fits the crime. That's considered justice. How would that be vengeance? I thought that conservatives didn't care about, like, rehabilitation. Anthony Brian Logan, hit us with some
How's
common
everybody
sense.
doing? My name is Anthony Brian Logan, and today we got to talk about the sentencing of Derek Chauvin for the murder of George Floyd up there in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Now, Derek Chauvin got 22 and a half years in the penitentiary for 3 different counts. You have third-degree murder, second-degree murder, and second-degree manslaughter. Now, the reactions to the sentencing have been all over the place. Some say that it didn't go far enough. Oh, he needs to get lynched in public, burned at the stake. They want the ultimate of the ultimate. I think Van Jones may have said something like that. So
yeah, Van Jones apparently did say something kind of stupid. He said, punch in the gut, this is not justice. This looks like it's from Breitbart, so you know we're getting some real accurate news so far.
The 22 and a half years in the joint, that's not really enough. Okay, now some say that's way too much. He was sacrificed because Minneapolis does not want more riots, nor do they want more riots nationwide. So he was sacrificed. Give him above 20 years. That'll satisfy the mob. That'll pretty much appease them. He was kind of a sacrificial offering.
Yeah, some people do think that. That's more or less the conservative position.
That's what they say. That's what the other side says. And there's quite a few different opinions in between that. Now, before I get into those opinions and my particular opinion, I got to back up a little bit here to give you some context.
Okay.
Just so we're on the same page with each other.
Let's get on the same
now,
page.
We all know what happened.
Let's get some common sense. He hasn't really made any arguments yet, so I'm kind of just sitting here trying to add what I can.
Happened here as far as the knee on the neck, the 8 minutes, the 9 minutes,
oh no,
or whatever.
Please,
we all saw that part.
But he was on
we
drugs.
Also know,
he was on
according
drugs.
to not one,
he was on
but
drugs.
2 different autopsies, that George Floyd had a lot of drugs in the system. I think there were a few different drugs.
Every time. Why does this matter? Also, it wasn't 2 autopsies. I thought 1 autopsy explicitly said it was asphyxia. And wait a minute. The Hennepin County autopsy guy, whoever conducted the autopsy, he spoke in court. The Hennepin County medical examiner who conducted George Floyd's autopsy testified during the Derek Chauvin trial Friday that Floyd's death was a homicide. He states that law enforcement subdual, restraint, and neck compression were direct causes. He did mention something about drugs. So let's look at what he kind of expands on this. It shows that the immediate cause of Floyd's death were pulmonary arrest complicating law enforcement subdual, restraint, neck compression. Other contributing factors listed were heart disease, fentanyl, and recent meth use. The two said the other contributing factors of death aren't direct causes of death, but are more important for data collection. They may have contributed to Floyd's death, but were not the direct cause. Okay, so I think that that's pretty easy to understand, right? So yes, Floyd had drugs in his system, and for documentation purposes, they listed it here, and it's quite possible, yes, that it played some role in his death. But the question is, would George Floyd be alive had Derek Chauvin not kneeled on his neck? And the answer is yes. So even the Hennepin County medical examiner, he has testified under oath that it was a homicide. This was the first autopsy that conservatives point to because it mentioned the drugs. The second autopsy found that George Floyd died from asphyxia. So this guy's pretty much just lying?
Had a lot of drugs in the system. I think there were a few different drugs, but I know there was one, and that was fentanyl. I've heard that there was a lethal amount of fentanyl in the system.
I thought that George Floyd didn't actually have that much fentanyl in his system. Fentanyl present in George Floyd's system, but not enough to cause his death. He had 11 nanograms. According to expert witnesses, this wasn't enough to be considered fatal. A toxicologist in a lab in Pennsylvania presented data at a trial for more than 2,300 blood samples in fentanyl DUI cases from the last year. He showed that while the average fentanyl blood level was close to 9.6, a quarter of people tested had 11 nanograms or higher. Important to note, blood samples were taken from drivers who tested positive for fentanyl and were alive at the time of collection. Now we understand. Did he have some drugs in his system? Yeah. Was it the lethal amount? No. That part's the lie. This is what conservatives do a lot, and it's very infuriating. They will start with something that is true and then build a lie on top of it. So when you try to attack it, they say, well, I mean, he did have drugs in his system. It's how cowardly pussies argue.
Some people say, Derek Chauvin is the reason why George Floyd died. Well, are we ignoring the drugs? I mean, is that not part of it? I think that
it is, in fact, not part of it any longer. Yeah, it's been decided and ruled from multiple autopsies. For some reason, you keep saying that, even though it destroys your point, that George Floyd died because of Derek Chauvin. I mean, what is this cope, dude? The whole fucking jury found him guilty. He's been sentenced, and still we're like, have we forgotten that one time Floyd smoked the marijuana?
It really played into the whole situation. I couldn't get into George Floyd's background and whatnot, but I think in that moment, when he died, the drugs did play a factor. That's just my opinion based upon what I saw from the 2 different autopsies.
I'm glad that this is just your opinion, because it's a dumb opinion, one, and it's a factually incorrect opinion, two. Do we need to go over the two other autopsies again? The 2 autopsies that you keep citing that prove my point?
It is what it is. And his behavior on the body cam, that's what it was.
Good point.
Now, speaking about the body cam footage,
such common sense.
What was going on is very simple. Somebody called the police on George Floyd, trying to pass off a fake bill.
We know the story.
They're trying to
we know.
instruct. Now, let's get back to the knee thing, and then we'll move on.
Okay.
This was a department-trained tactic. As a matter of fact, here's a slide from the training materials that Chauvin was given.
Wrong. Again. Oh, I hate it. I hate the half-truths. They are infuriating me. All right, hold on. I'm going to go ahead and pull this out. Wouldn't it suck if there was someone testifying under oath that completely obliterated what that guy just lied about? Oof, that would suck. It would really suck if the former training commander explained that the way Chauvin acted with the knee on the neck was not what they train. Per policy, a neck restraint is compressing one or both sides of the neck using an arm or a leg, but what we train is using one arm or two arms to do a neck restraint, she said. And how does this differ? And then she says, I don't know what kind of improvised position that is, so that's not what we train. She also told jurors that officers are trained about the dangers of keeping a person in a position that can limit the person's ability to breathe, a concept called positional asphyxia. We were taught about positional asphyxia all the way back to my academy, adding that her time with the department overlaps with the length of time Chauvin has also been there. Officers are taught to put a person on their side as soon as possible when a person is under control. So see, this is what I mean with the half-truth. Again, we have, is it protocol to have your knee on the person's neck? Yes. If they're not complying, it is protocol if you need to put your knee on their neck for like a second to get them to comply and calm down. And then you're supposed to move and make sure that they aren't suffocating like what happened to George fucking Floyd. So when Derek Chauvin kept the knee on his neck for 10 minutes, it does violate the policy. Why is this moron so intent on defending Derek Chauvin? Why? He's just like regurgitating some of the talking points that like the defense for Chauvin made that was ruled against in court. Like, it's just, what is this?
This was a department-trained policy up there in Minneapolis.
False.
Now, it's since been removed, but it was on their website, easily available for all you guys to see. So,
because there's a difference between putting your knee on someone's neck for a second and then putting your knee on someone's neck for 10 minutes when the training is that you do it for a second and then roll them over so they don't suffocate.
If what he did warrants getting 22 and a half years, I'm having a hard time finding that out. I don't think... Well, from what I am able to see, I don't believe that Derek Chauvin tried to kill this man. You getting convicted on 3 different murder charges. I don't see how that makes any sense, especially when the movie did the whole knee on the neck thing, which is the centerpiece of this whole situation, which is why he's in the penitentiary. This was trained by the department.
He's just like repeating things that are wrong. It's bizarre. Go ahead, call me jealous. Do not give a fuck. But it is actually like infuriating to me that there are almost a million idiotic boomers that subscribe to this and think this is good content. It is genuinely disgusting to me.
The whole knee on the neck thing, which is the centerpiece of this whole situation, which is why it
was not standard protocol.
Penitentiary. This was trained by the department. There could be an argument to say maybe it was on too long. Maybe he didn't. Stop
pretending you're smart, Hunter. You're trying to appease people who don't care about you. Hey, why don't you jump in my Discord and you can tell me what I said that was wrong in this segment, please.
George Floyd enough attention while he was in distress. All right. Because people were looking at it. It was a long time. You kind of saw him fading. They said, okay, at that moment, you need to make sure that he's all right. Make sure everything's good.
Uh-huh.
So maybe he was negligent in his care of George Floyd, but the knee on the neck or the back or whatever, that was department trained. So that knee thing, in my humble opinion, shouldn't really be conflated with a lack of care or a lack of proper treatment earlier. That's just in my humble opinion. Now,
aren't you glad this is all just a humble opinion? Because that's really all this is so far.
A lot of people feel like he was a sacrifice.
Do you feel like
to a certain point, I have to agree.
Oh, okay.
Because 22 and a half years is too long for what happened. Let's go back to 2017. There was another officer in Minneapolis, Minnesota, by the name of Mohammed Noor, a Somali American.
I'm
not sure if he was born in Somalia. Oh, I think he was born in Somalia and then came to America, just like Ilhan Omar. But that's a different story, and I digress. So he's a Somali on the Minneapolis police force. He shoots and kills a woman for coming up to the squad car, and she's the one that called the police. Her name was Justine Diamond, a white woman. Now, he went to jail.
Does this guy
as well, but only got 12.5 years. So if you shoot and kill somebody that you shouldn't have shot and killed, you get 12 and a half years. But if you have the knee on the neck, which is trained by the department, and you're simply negligent in your care of somebody, you get 22 and a half years.
Okay, so this is just, it's so unbelievably cringy. So I looked into the story that he's talking about here. And again, thankfully I was able to do like just a little bit of reading because I don't think this guy does that. So first of all, this officer was able to claim self-defense. It's my understanding that Derek Chauvin could not do that because he had 10 minutes where Floyd was subdued on the ground in handcuffs. However, this officer was able to claim self-defense, okay? So that right there is already a little bit different. That might go into how this decision is made. But his conviction marks the first guilty verdict for a fatal shooting by an on-duty cop in Minnesota in decades. So there are so many different things here. This is in decades. So this was like a one-off example, and he's like, here is somebody that committed a crime. Here is a police officer that did something bad, and here's another police officer that did something bad. Why did the one police officer get less time? There's court precedent, which is a huge thing. There's a difference between if it's shooting or if it's like a physical way that you killed the person. The fact that he was able to claim self-defense, there are so many different variables that go into this case versus the Floyd case. It's just, it's such a cheap and, oh my God, I should just go back to making conservative content. If it's this easy, then I'd be at 1 million subscribers right now, easily. Holy shit. The fact that people actually watch this moron is like, it's insane to me. Chauvin sentence, I thought it was average. So Judge Peter Cahill took the bench, that's the judge, and he said the sentence was not based on sympathy or public opinion. So just to be very clear, even the judge is saying it. Rarer still is the way Chauvin committed the murder. 7 of the 9 officers sentenced for on-duty murder since 2005 shot their victims, said a professor of criminal justice. Okay, so the judge said his decision, which came with a 22-page memorandum, was not based on emotion or sympathy, nor was it based on public opinion. The judge, who based the sentence on the top conviction of second-degree unintentional murder, so that's what he got sentenced for, ruled that prosecutors proved beyond reasonable doubt 4 aggravating factors in the death of Floyd, which allowed him discretion to deviate from the recommended state sentencing guidelines and render a longer sentence.
You're both officers, both on Minneapolis Police Department. I think that's a miscarriage of justice, in my humble opinion. If you're going to give Muhammad Noor 12 and a half.
I like how he keeps saying, it's just my humble opinion, so he can just backtrack on everything. It gives him plausible deniability. This is literally like a cowardly way to argue. He's just like, this was a mischaracterization of justice, in my humble opinion. So that way all the boomers that are half drunk watching can clap along and hiccup. And then if someone actually tries to hold him accountable for this bullshit, he can say, well, it was just my opinion. I mean, I don't...
Maybe give Derek Chauvin the same thing. Although what Derek Chauvin did was not nearly as direct as a gunshot to kill somebody. You understand? And I think what happened with Muhammad Noor, he reached over his...
Common sense legal expert over here, I guess. Is this where common sense gets you? Reading like Twitter headlines in Breitbart? Is this what it means to have common sense? Because damn, this is an insult to common sense.
You got guys like Van Jones going on TV crying, talking about he needs to get the ultimate of the ultimate. You have other so-called activists talking about he should have gotten more time. If he was black, he would have got the chair, all type of stuff. Then you're going to have the BLM people use this as validation, talking about, well, we got one corrupt cop in the penitentiary. We got a bunch of more corrupt cops to go. Although those that they target may not be corrupt at all, they still want to target them anyway. And that's not what you want.
So let's dissect what he just said there, which was, now BLM is going to want to, now that they're going to see that one corrupt cop was arrested, now they're going to want to go after some other corrupt cops. But some of those cops might not be corrupt, and you don't want to go after those cops. Yes, that is true. Don't go after the not corrupt cops. Do go after the yes corrupt cops. These are such vacuous statements.
People may not understand that. They may think, okay, we're giving the olive branch to the other side, meaning the BLM type people. We're giving them an olive branch.
Okay. Are you kidding me? So sentencing a cop for murdering the guy is giving in to BLM? Giving the olive branch to BLM? This is where wokeness has gotten us. Police officers can no longer kill black people.
Okay, we know this is wrong. This is not the right way to go. So here, take that. But what you're doing is giving them an inch. And like I've said many times before, whenever you give the left an inch, they'll take a mile. Matter of fact, they'll take every mile from here all the way to the sun. That's how they do. So,
oh, God forbid. Dude, we convicted one corrupt cop. God forbid we convict more. Oh, no.
I am not going to give him an inch. I'm not going to say that the 22 and a half years was justified. And they're still in the pill.
Wait, so because you don't want to give the left an inch, you're going to just stick your head in the sand and say, no, Derek Chauvin shouldn't have been given 22 years. Common sense, by the way. This is what where common sense gets you.
To go. And I think that the sentence will get knocked down during the appeal. Now, will he beat the case in the appeal? I don't know, because the case is so high profile. There's so much of this woven in the current culture. It's so much at stake. I don't think that he'll beat the case, but I think that he will get a reduced sentence, as he should. And I'm not sure about anybody else that was right there, but I think they're being brought up on charges or they're being sued. I'm not really sure what's going on, but they shouldn't get any time at all.
He has no fucking idea what's going on. I don't even know how he's able to make this video. I feel like he hasn't even done any research. It feels like he literally just listened to CNN or Fox News play in the background while he was like making spaghetti, and then was just like, all right, I think I have a good enough idea of what's going on. Yeah, so 22 and a half years? I mean, there's one cop one time that did something and didn't get that long, so obviously this is, it's all the woke left's fault. So he's kind of making the public pressure argument, right, which is very common for the conservatives. It was a high-profile case, so they felt pressured to convict him of murder, blah, 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 whatever. First of all, there have been high-profile cases in the past. Okay, we have O.J. Simpson. Are you going to argue that that was all pressure from the media? That was a super high-profile case. Second of all, there have literally been interviews with jurors, none of which said they felt pressured or threatened. In fact, one of the first juror to speak out says he didn't feel pressure to reach a guilty verdict. He was the first to speak out and said that he and his fellow jurors didn't really feel much pressure. The judge has now said that there wasn't any pressure or public sympathy pressuring him. And lastly, you may have heard this story where they say one of the jurors admitted to feeling really, really pressured to convict him of being guilty. The headline claimed that a juror made a stunning admission over the guilty verdict. She said, I had mixed feelings when asked did she want to be a juror. There was a question on the questionnaire about that, and I didn't know, because the reason at the time was obviously I didn't know what the outcome was going to be. So I felt like either way, the outcome was you're going to disappoint one group or the other. So I didn't want to go through this whole rioting and destruction again. And, a little concerned about people outside my house if they weren't happy with the verdict. Keep in mind that she also was an alternate juror. So she never actually even voted on the case. She never actually played a role in convicting him. Second of all, she was asked specifically if she thought outside forces would have played a role at all in your decision. And she then said, I don't. I feel like we took this trial very seriously. We didn't want anything to go wrong. I feel like none of us watched the news or were on our phones, on social media or anything. We did not discuss it among any of us. So I wasn't aware until afterwards when I got released, the magnitude of everything.
As I close, I want to say this.
Okay.
The mob justice and mob rule is not going to work in the end.
This is kind of what other people are saying. It's just my humble opinion, But at the end of the day, this was mob justice. How was it mob justice? Please. Or is this just the conservative narrative that you think if you repeat it enough times, your imaginary fantasy world will come true? This, by the way, is what happens when you live your life in an echo chamber and never challenge your beliefs. And on top of that, you have 877,000 dipshit subscribers that jerk you off for every dumb fuck thing you say. It is literally, like, this kind of bullshit hurts political dialogue.
Rule is not going to work in the end. Some are going to celebrate this as a victory. You know, the mob wins, the mob rule or whatever. But once you have the mob being able to, quote unquote, gain victories, they're going to want more victories and more things to go their way. And
More police
end
officers
result
might
may
be convicted. Oh no.
society in which you don't really want to live. A society that's got,
You know, a society I don't want to live in is a society where this cuck has over 800,000 subscribers, first of all. Okay. And second of all, the society that I don't want to live in is where we have people like this idiot defending the murder of George Floyd, more or less, claiming it was mob justice because it's convenient for his bottom dollar. Like, I don't even know. Maybe he genuinely believes this. It's more of a compliment to suggest he's a grifter because I don't believe he's this stupid, but I could be wrong.
that has gone so woke without any kind of rules, without any kind of regulations, is going to be inhospitable.
A world so woke that police officers are convicted for murder. Oh, good God. What kind of world are we headed towards?
Nobody wants to live in a place like that. Not in the least bit. I say rest in peace to George Floyd. Prayers out to his family. You know, they had his daughter. I think someone else from his family speak before the sentencing. You know, it's rough on them because they didn't do anything. They're just innocent people who happen to have a loved one that did whatever they did, and the officer did whatever he did, and now the loved one is gone.
Yep, they did whatever
really
they did, dude. They did the,
but
they did
I
the
think
deed.
George Floyd, if not for them drugs, this wouldn't even have happened. If not for the drugs, it wouldn't have happened. But I think
Oh, what happened to my humble opinion? I'm confused. I thought this was just your humble opinion. Now it's the drugs that did it. Without the drugs, this wouldn't have happened. Okay.
What do you think about this whole thing in general? Do you think it's beneficial to give the left an olive branch? I don't think so. I think you guys stand in your convictions regardless. Don't give them an inch. Don't try to negotiate or meet them halfway. That's not going to do anything other than give them ammunition to attack you with. All right? It's like giving them bullets to load in their gun. Don't give them any bullets to load in their gun. You stay true to whatever you believe in.
This is...
And I think...
He's not... He's literally, like, not saying anything. He's saying you shouldn't push for justice because it'll be giving into the left.
The only thing that Derek Chauvin did was not show George Floyd more attention in this moment.
In
But he
your
did
humble
not kill
opinion,
this man
right?
with a knee on the neck. In my humble opinion.
Good, okay.
I think the drugs got to him. The situation got to him. Not
Your humble opinion sure seems very convenient and very much in line with the conservative narrative. That's strange. All right, no more of this bullshit. This guy is a fucking idiot. Holy shit. I am actually a little bit mad. I'm going to dislike this one. Yeah, I fully admit that I got a little pissed off with this one because this guy, like, oh my God, stupidity, it does infuriate me.
If Anthony were to see this video tomorrow and propose to have a debate with you, would you accept it?
100% yes. I would actually love it if Anthony wanted to show up right now and debate me on this subject. I would fucking love to because that guy doesn't know anything.
I completely agree with you.
You don't even have to be good at debate.
Right.
So I'm lucky.
Right.
Like you just need to read more than a fucking Twitter headline. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and click the bell so you get notified when I drop a new video.